Paper 10. The Paradise Trinity. The Paradise Trinity of eternal deities facilitates the Father's escape from personality absolutism. The Trinity perfectly associates the limitless expression of God's infinite personal will with the absoluteness of deity. The Eternal Son and the various sons of divine origin, together with the conjoint actor and his universe children, effectively provide for the Father's liberation from the limitations otherwise inherent in primacy, perfection, changelessness, eternity, universality, absoluteness, and infinity. The Paradise Trinity effectively provides for the full expression and perfect revelation of the eternal nature of deity. The stationary sons of the Trinity likewise afford a full and perfect revelation of divine justice. The Trinity is deity unity, and this unity rests eternally upon the absolute foundations of the divine oneness of the three original and coordinate and coexistent personalities, God the Father, God the Son, and God the Spirit. From the present situation on the circle of eternity, looking backward into the endless past, we can discover only one inescapable inevitability in universe affairs, and that is the Paradise Trinity. I deem the Trinity to have been inevitable. As I view the past, present, and future of time, I consider nothing else in all the universe of universes to have been inevitable. The present master universe, viewed in retrospect or in prospect, is unthinkable without the Trinity. Given the Paradise Trinity, we can postulate alternate or even multiple ways of doing all things. But without the Trinity of Father, Son, and Spirit, we are unable to conceive how the infinite could achieve threefold and coordinate personalization in the face of the absolute oneness of deity. No other concept of creation measures up to the Trinity standards of the completeness of the absoluteness inherent in deity unity, coupled with the repleteness of volitional liberation inherent in the threefold personalization of deity. 1. Self-distribution of the first source and center. It would seem that the Father, back in eternity, inaugurated a policy of profound self-distribution. There is inherent in the selfless, loving, and lovable nature of the Universal Father something which causes him to reserve to himself the exercise of only those powers and that authority which he apparently finds it impossible to delegate or to bestow. The Universal Father all along has divested himself of every part of himself that was bestowable on any other creator or creature. He has delegated to his divine sons and their associated intelligences every power and all authority that could be delegated. He has actually transferred to his sovereign sons in their respective universes every prerogative of administrative authority that was transferable. In the affairs of a local universe, he has made each sovereign creator son just as perfect, competent, and authoritative as is the eternal Son in the original and central universe. He has given away, actually bestowed, with the dignity and sanctity of personality possession, all of himself and all of his attributes, everything he possibly could divest himself of, in every way, in every age, in every place, and to every person, and in every universe except that of his central indwelling. Divine personality is not self-centered. Self-distribution and sharing of personality characterize divine free will selfhood. Creatures crave association with other personal creatures. Creators are moved to share divinity with their universe children. The personality of the infinite is disclosed as the Universal Father, who shares reality of being and equality of self with two coordinate personalities, the Eternal Son and the conjoint actor. For knowledge concerning the Father's personality and divine attributes, we will always be dependent on the revelations of the Eternal Son. For when the conjoint act of creation was effected, when the third person of deity sprang into personality existence, and executed the combined concepts of his divine parents, the Father ceased to exist as the unqualified personality. With the coming into being of the conjoint actor and the materialization of the central core of creation, certain eternal changes took place. God gave himself as an absolute personality to his eternal Son. Thus does the Father bestow the personality of infinity upon his only begotten Son, while they both bestow the conjoint personality of their eternal union upon the infinite Spirit. For these and other reasons beyond the concept of the finite mind, it is exceedingly difficult for the human creature to comprehend God's infinite Father personality, except as it is universally revealed in the eternal Son, and with the Son is universally active in the infinite Spirit. Since the paradise sons of God visit the evolutionary worlds, and sometimes even there dwell in the likeness of mortal flesh, and since these bestowals make it possible for mortal man actually to know something of the nature and character of divine personality, therefore must the creatures of the planetary spheres look to the bestowals of these paradise sons for reliable and trustworthy information regarding the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. 2. Deity personalization. By the technique of trinitization, the Father divests himself of that unqualified spirit personality, which is the Son. But in so doing, he constitutes himself the Father of this very Son, and thereby possesses himself of unlimited capacity to become the divine Father of all subsequently created, eventuated, or other personalized types of intelligent will creatures. As the absolute and unqualified personality, the Father can function only as and with the Son, but as a personal Father, he continues to bestow personality upon the diverse hosts of the differing levels of intelligent will creatures, and he forever maintains personal relations of loving association with this vast family of universe children. After the Father has bestowed upon the personality of his Son the fullness of himself, and when this act of self-bestowal is complete and perfect, of the infinite power and nature which are thus existent in the Father-Son union, the eternal partners conjointly bestow those qualities and attributes which constitute still another being like themselves, and this conjoint personality, the infinite Spirit, completes the existential personalization of deity. The Son is indispensable to the fatherhood of God. The Spirit is indispensable to the fraternity of the second and third persons. 3 persons are a minimum social group, but this is least of all the many reasons for believing in the inevitability of the conjoint actor. The first source and center is the infinite Father personality, the unlimited source personality. The eternal Son is the unqualified personality absolute, that divine being who stands throughout all time and eternity as the perfect revelation of the personal nature of God. The infinite Spirit is the conjoint personality, the unique personal consequence of the everlasting Father-Son union. The personality of the first source and center is the personality of infinity minus the absolute personality of the eternal Son. The personality of the third source and center is the superadditive consequence of the union of the liberated Father personality and the absolute Son personality. The universal Father, the eternal Son, and the infinite Spirit are unique persons. None is a duplicate. Each is original. All are united. The eternal Son alone experiences the fullness of divine personality relationship, consciousness of both sonship with the Father and paternity to the Spirit, and of divine equality with both Father ancestor and Spirit associate. The Father knows the experience of having a Son who is his equal, but the Father knows no ancestral antecedents. The eternal Son has the experience of sonship, recognition of personality ancestry, and at the same time, the Son is conscious of being joint parent to the infinite Spirit. The infinite Spirit is conscious of twofold personality ancestry, but is not parental to a coordinate deity personality. With the Spirit, the existential cycle of deity personalization attains completion. The primary personalities of the third source and center are experiential and are 7 in number. I am of origin in the Paradise Trinity. I know the Trinity as unified deity. I also know that the Father, Son, and Spirit exist and act in their definite personal capacities. I positively know that they not only act personally and collectively, but that they also coordinate their performances in various groupings, so that in the end they function in 7 different singular and plural capacities. And since these 7 associations exhaust the possibilities for such divinity combination, it is inevitable that the realities of the universe shall appear in 7 variations of values, meanings, and personality. 3. The 3 persons of deity. Notwithstanding there is only one deity, there are 3 positive and divine personalizations of deity. Regarding the endowment of man with the divine adjusters, the Father said, "Let us make mortal man in our own image." Repeatedly throughout the Urantian writings, there occurs this reference to the acts and doings of plural deity, clearly showing recognition of the existence and working of the 3 sources and centers. We are taught that the Son and the Spirit sustain the same and equal relations to the Father in the Trinity association. In eternity and as deities they undoubtedly do, but in time and as personalities they certainly disclose relationships of a very diverse nature. Looking from paradise out on the universes, these relationships do seem to be very similar, but when viewed from the domains of space they appear to be quite different. The divine sons are indeed the Word of God, but the children of the Spirit are truly the act of God. God speaks through the Son, and with the Son acts through the infinite Spirit, while in all universe activities the Son and the Spirit are exquisitely fraternal, working as 2 equal brothers with admiration and love for an honored and divinely respected common Father. The Father, Son, and Spirit are certainly equal in nature, coordinate in being, but there are unmistakable differences in their universe performances, and when acting alone, each person of deity is apparently limited in absoluteness. The Universal Father, prior to his self-willed divestment of the personality, powers, and attributes which constitute the Son and the Spirit, seems to have been, philosophically considered, an unqualified, absolute, and infinite deity. But such a theoretical first source and center without a Son could not in any sense of the word be considered the universal Father. Fatherhood is not real without sonship. Furthermore, the Father, to have been absolute in a total sense, must have existed at some eternally distant moment alone. But he never had such a solitary existence. The Son and the Spirit are both co-eternal with the Father. The first source and center has always been, and will forever be, the eternal Father of the original Son, and with the Son the eternal progenitor of the infinite Spirit. We observe that the Father has divested himself of all direct manifestations of absoluteness except absolute fatherhood and absolute volition. We do not know whether volition is an inalienable attribute of the Father. We can only observe that he did not divest himself of volition. Such infinity of will must have been eternally inherent in the first source and center. In bestowing absoluteness of personality upon the Eternal Son, the Universal Father escapes from the fetters of personality absolutism. But in so doing, he takes a step which makes it forever impossible for him to act alone as the personality absolute. And with the final personalization of coexistent deity, the conjoint actor, there ensues the critical Trinitarian interdependence of the three divine personalities with regard to the totality of deity function in absolute. God is the Father absolute of all personalities in the universe of universes. The Father is personally absolute in liberty of action. But in the universes of time and space, made in the making and yet to be made, the Father is not discernibly absolute as total deity, except in the Paradise Trinity. The first source and center functions outside of Havona in the phenomenal universes as follows. 1. As creator, through the Creator's sons, his grandsons. 2. As controller, through the gravity center of paradise. 3. As spirit, through the eternal Son. 4. As mind, through the conjoint Creator. 5. As a father, he maintains parental contact with all creatures through his personality circuit. 6. As a person, he acts directly throughout creation by his exclusive fragments, in mortal man by the thought adjusters. 7. As total deity, he functions only in the Paradise Trinity. All these relinquishments and delegations of jurisdiction by the Universal Father are wholly voluntary and self-imposed. The all-powerful Father purposefully assumes these limitations of universe authority. The Eternal Son seems to function as one with the Father in all spiritual respects except in the bestowals of the God fragments and in other pre-personal activities. Neither is the Son closely identified with the intellectual activities of material creatures, nor with the energy activities of the material universes. As absolute, the Son functions as a person, and only in the domain of the spiritual universe. The Infinite Spirit is amazingly universal and unbelievably versatile in all his operations. He performs in the spheres of mind, matter, and spirit. The conjoint actor represents the Father-Son association, but he also functions as himself. He is not directly concerned with physical gravity, with spiritual gravity, or with the personality circuit, but he more or less participates in all other universe activities. While apparently dependent on three existential and absolute gravity controls, the Infinite Spirit appears to exercise three super-controls. This threefold endowment is employed in many ways to transcend and seemingly to neutralize even the manifestations of primary forces and energies, right up to the super-ultimate borders of absoluteness. In certain situations, these super-controls absolutely transcend even the primal manifestations of cosmic reality. 4. The Trinity Union of Deity. Of all absolute associations, the Paradise Trinity, the first triunity, is unique as an exclusive association of personal deity. God functions as God only in relation to God and to those who can know God, but as absolute deity only in the Paradise Trinity and in relation to universe totality. Eternal deity is perfectly unified. Nevertheless, there are three perfectly individualized persons of deity. The Paradise Trinity makes possible the simultaneous expression of all the diversity of the character traits and infinite powers of the first source and center and his eternal coordinates, and of all the divine unity of the universe functions of undivided deity. The Trinity is an association of infinite persons functioning in a non-personal capacity, but not in contravention of personality. The illustration is crude, but a father, son, and grandson could form a corporate entity which would be non-personal, but nonetheless subject to their personal wills. The Paradise Trinity is real. It exists as the deity union of Father, Son, and Spirit. Yet, the Father, the Son, or the Spirit, or any two of them, can function in relation to this selfsame Paradise Trinity. The Father, Son, and Spirit can collaborate in a non-Trinity manner, but not as three deities. As persons they can collaborate as they choose, but that is not the Trinity. Ever remember that what the infinite Spirit does is the function of the conjoint actor. Both the Father and the Son are functioning in and through and as Him. But it would be futile to attempt to elucidate the Trinity mystery, three as one, and in one, and one as two and acting for two. The Trinity is so related to total universe affairs that it must be reckoned with in our attempts to explain the totality of any isolated cosmic event or personality relationship. The Trinity functions on all levels of the cosmos, and mortal man is limited to the finite level. Therefore must man be content with a finite concept of the Trinity as the Trinity. As a mortal in the flesh, you should view the Trinity in accordance with your individual enlightenment, and in harmony with the reactions of your mind and soul. You can know very little of the absoluteness of the Trinity, but as you ascend paradiseward, you will many times experience astonishment at successive revelations and unexpected discoveries of Trinity supremacy and ultimacy, if not of absoluteness. 5. Functions of the Trinity. The personal deities have attributes, but it is hardly consistent to speak of the Trinity as having attributes. This association of divine beings may more properly be regarded as having functions, such as justice administration, totality attitudes, coordinate action, and cosmic over-control. These functions are actively supreme, ultimate, and within the limits of deity, absolute, as far as all living realities of personality value are concerned. The functions of the Paradise Trinity are not simply the sum of the Father's apparent endowment of divinity plus those specialized attributes that are unique in the personal existence of the Son and the Spirit. The Trinity association of the three Paradise deities results in the evolution, eventuation, and deitization of new meanings, values, powers, and capacities for universal revelation, action, and administration. Living associations, human families, social groups, or the Paradise Trinity are not augmented by mere arithmetical summation. The group potential is always far in excess of the simple sum of the attributes of the component individuals. The Trinity maintains a unique attitude as the Trinity towards the entire universe of the past, present, and future, and the functions of the Trinity can best be considered in relation to the universe attitudes of the Trinity. Such attitudes are simultaneous and may be multiple concerning any isolated situation or event. 1. Attitude toward the finite. The maximum self-limitation of the Trinity is its attitude toward the finite. The Trinity is not a person, nor is the Supreme Being an exclusive personalization of the Trinity. But the Supreme is the nearest approach to a power-personality focalization of the Trinity which can be comprehended by finite creatures. Hence, the Trinity, in relation to the finite, is sometimes spoken of as the Trinity of Supremacy. 2. Attitude toward the Absonite. The Paradise Trinity has regard for those levels of existence which are more than finite, but less than absolute, and this relationship is sometimes denominated the Trinity of Ultimacy. Neither the ultimate nor the supreme are wholly representative of the Paradise Trinity, but in a qualified sense, and to their respective levels, each seems to represent the Trinity during the pre-personal eras of experiential power development. 3. The absolute attitude of the Paradise Trinity is in relation to absolute existences and culminates in the action of total deity. The Trinity Infinite involves the coordinate action of all tri-unity relationships of the first source and center, undeified as well as deified, and hence is very difficult for personalities to grasp. In the contemplation of the Trinity as infinite, do not ignore the 7 tri-unities. Thereby, certain difficulties of understanding may be avoided, and certain paradoxes may be partially resolved. But I do not command language which would enable me to convey to the limited human mind the full truth and the eternal significance of the Paradise Trinity and the nature of the never-ending interassociation of the 3 beings of infinite perfection. 6. The stationary sons of the Trinity. All law takes origin in the first source and center. He is law. The administration of spiritual law inheres in the second source and center. The revelation of law, the promulgation and interpretation of the divine statutes, is the function of the third source and center. The application of law, justice, falls within the province of the Paradise Trinity and is carried out by certain sons of the Trinity. Justice is inherent in the universal sovereignty of the Paradise Trinity, but goodness, mercy, and truth are the universe ministry of the divine personalities, whose deity union constitutes the Trinity. Justice is not the attitude of the Father, the Son, or the Spirit. Justice is the Trinity attitude of these personalities of love, mercy, and ministry. No one of the Paradise deities fosters the administration of justice. Justice is never a personal attitude. It is always a plural function. Evidence. The basis of fairness, justice in harmony with mercy, is supplied by the personalities of the third source and center, the conjoint representative of the Father and the Son to all realms and to the minds of the intelligent beings of all creation. Judgment. The final application of justice, in accordance with the evidence submitted by the personalities of the Infinite Spirit, is the work of the stationary sons of the Trinity, beings partaking of the Trinity nature of the united Father, Son, and Spirit. The group of Trinity sons embraces the following personalities. 1. Trinitized secrets of supremacy. 2. Eternals of days. 3. Ancients of days. 4. Perfections of days. 5. Recents of days. 6. Unions of days. 7. Faithfuls of days. 8. Perfecters of wisdom. 9. Divine counselors. 10. Universal censors. We are the children of the 3 Paradise deities functioning as the Trinity, for I chance to belong to the 10th order of this group, the Universal Censors. These orders are not representative of the attitude of the Trinity in a universal sense. They represent this collective attitude of deity only in the domains of executive judgment, justice. They were specifically designed by the Trinity for the precise work to which they are assigned, and they represent the Trinity only in those functions for which they were personalized. The Ancients of Days and their Trinity origin associates mete out the just judgment of supreme fairness to the 7 superuniverses. In the central universe, such functions exist in theory only. There, fairness is self-evident in perfection, and Havona perfection precludes all possibility of disharmony. Justice is the collective thought of righteousness. Mercy is its personal expression. Mercy is the attitude of love. Precision characterizes the operation of law. Divine judgment is the soul of fairness, ever conforming to the justice of the Trinity, ever fulfilling the divine love of God. when fully perceived and completely understood, the righteous justice of the Trinity and the merciful love of the universal Father are coincident. But man has no such full understanding of divine justice. Thus, in the Trinity, as man would view it, the personalities of Father, Son, and Spirit are adjusted to coordinate ministry of love and law in the experiential universes of time. 7. The over-control of supremacy. The first, second, and third persons of deity are equal to each other, and they are one. The Lord our God is one God. There is perfection of purpose and oneness of execution in the divine trinity of eternal deities. The Father, the Son, and the conjoint actor are truly and divinely one. Of a truth, it is written, I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no God. As things appear to the mortal on the finite level, the Paradise Trinity, like the Supreme Being, is concerned only with the total planet, total universe, total superuniverse, total grand universe. This totality attitude exists because the Trinity is the total of deity, and for many other reasons. The Supreme Being is something less and something other than the Trinity functioning in the finite universes. But within certain limits, and during the present era of incomplete power personalization, this evolutionary deity does appear to reflect the attitude of the Trinity of supremacy. The Father, Son, and Spirit do not personally function with the Supreme Being, but during the present universe age, they collaborate with him as the Trinity. We understand that they sustain a similar relationship to the ultimate. We often conjecture as to what will be the personal relationship between the Paradise deities and God the Supreme when he has finally evolved, but we do not really know. We do not find the over-control of supremacy to be wholly predictable. Furthermore, this unpredictability appears to be characterized by a certain developmental incompleteness, undoubtedly an earmark of the incompleteness of the Supreme, and of the incompleteness of finite reaction to the Paradise Trinity. The mortal mind can immediately think of 1,001 things: catastrophic physical events, appalling accidents, horrific disasters, painful illnesses, and worldwide scourges, and ask whether such visitations are correlated in the unknown maneuvering of this probable functioning of the Supreme Being. Frankly, we do not know. We are not really sure. But we do observe that as time passes, all these difficult and more or less mysterious situations always work out for the welfare and progress of the universes. It may be that the circumstances of existence and the inexplicable vicissitudes of living are all interwoven into a meaningful pattern of high value by the function of the Supreme and the over-control of the Trinity. As a son of God, you can discern the personal attitude of love in all the acts of God the Father, but you will not always be able to understand how many of the universe acts of the Paradise Trinity redound to the good of the individual mortal on the evolutionary worlds of space. In the progress of eternity, the acts of the Trinity will be revealed as altogether meaningful and considerate, but they do not always so appear to the creatures of time. 8. The Trinity beyond the finite. Many truths and facts pertaining to the Paradise Trinity can only be even partially comprehended by recognizing a function that transcends the finite. It would be inadvisable to discuss the functions of the Trinity of ultimacy, but it may be disclosed that God the Ultimate is the Trinity manifestation comprehended by the Transcendentalers. We are inclined to the belief that the unification of the Master Universe is the eventuating act of the Ultimate, and is probably reflective of certain, but not all, phases of the absonite over-control of the Paradise Trinity. The Ultimate is a qualified manifestation of the Trinity in relation to the absonite, only in the sense that the Supreme thus partially represents the Trinity in relation to the finite. The Universal Father, the Eternal Son, and the Infinite Spirit are, in a certain sense, the constituent personalities of total deity. Their union in the Paradise Trinity and the absolute function of the Trinity equivalate to the function of total deity, and such completion of deity transcends both the finite and the absonite. While no single person of the Paradise deities actually fills all deity potential, collectively, all three do. Three infinite persons seem to be the minimum number of beings required to activate the prepersonal and existential potential of total deity, the deity absolute. We know the Universal Father, the Eternal Son, and the Infinite Spirit as persons. But I do not personally know the deity absolute. I love and worship God the Father. I respect and honor the deity absolute. I once sojourned in a universe where a certain group of beings taught that the finaliters, in eternity, were eventually to become the children of the deity absolute. But I am unwilling to accept this solution of the mystery which enshrouds the future of the finaliters. The core of the finality embrace, among others, those mortals of time and space who have attained perfection in all that pertains to the will of God. As creatures, and within the limits of creature capacity, they fully and truly know God. Having thus found God as the Father of all creatures, these finaliters must sometime begin the quest for the superfinite Father. But this quest involves a grasp of the absonite nature of the ultimate attributes and character of the Paradise Father. Eternity will disclose whether such an attainment is possible, but we are convinced, even if the finaliters do grasp this ultimate of divinity, they will probably be unable to attain the super-ultimate levels of absolute deity. It may be possible that the finaliters will partially attain the deity absolute, but even if they should, still in the eternity of eternities, the problem of the universal absolute will continue to intrigue, mystify, baffle, and challenge the ascending and progressing finaliters, for we perceive that the unfathomability of the cosmic relationships of the universal absolute will tend to grow in proportions as the material universes and their spiritual administration continue to expand. Only infinity can disclose the Father Infinite.
Sponsored by a universal censor acting by authority from the Ancients of Days resident on Uversa.
Paper 11. The Eternal Isle of Paradise. Paradise is the eternal center of the universe of universes and the abiding place of the Universal Father, the Eternal Son, the Infinite Spirit, and their divine coordinates and associates. This central isle is the most gigantic organized body of cosmic reality in all the master universe. Paradise is a material sphere as well as a spiritual abode. All of the intelligent creation of the Universal Father is domiciled on material abodes. Hence must the absolute controlling center also be material, literal. And again it should be reiterated that spirit things and spiritual beings are real. The material beauty of paradise consists in the magnificence of its physical perfection. The grandeur of the Isle of God is exhibited in the superb intellectual accomplishments and mind development of its inhabitants. The glory of the central isle is shown forth in the infinite endowment of divine spirit personality, the light of life. But the depths of the spiritual beauty and the wonders of this magnificent ensemble are utterly beyond the comprehension of the finite mind of material creatures. The glory and spiritual splendor of the divine abode are impossible of mortal comprehension, and paradise is from eternity. There are neither records nor traditions respecting the origin of this nuclear isle of light and life. 1. The divine residence. Paradise serves many purposes in the administration of the universal realms, but to creature beings it exists primarily as the dwelling place of deity. The personal presence of the Universal Father is resident at the very center of the upper surface of this well-nigh circular, but not spherical, abode of the deities. This paradise presence of the Universal Father is immediately surrounded by the personal presence of the Eternal Son, while they are both invested by the unspeakable glory of the Infinite Spirit. God dwells, has dwelt, and everlastingly will dwell in this same central and eternal abode. We have always found him there, and always will. The Universal Father is cosmically focalized, spiritually personalized, and geographically resident at this center of the universe of universes. We all know the direct course to pursue to find the Universal Father. You are not able to comprehend much about the divine residence because of its remoteness from you and the immensity of the intervening space. But those who are able to comprehend the meaning of these enormous distances know God's location and residence just as certainly and literally as you know the location of New York, London, Rome, or Singapore, cities definitely and geographically located on Urantia. If you were an intelligent navigator, equipped with ship, maps, and compass, you could readily find these cities. Likewise, if you had the time and means of passage, were spiritually qualified, and had the necessary guidance, you could be piloted through universe upon universe and from circuit to circuit, ever journeying inward through the starry realms, until at last you would stand before the central shining of the spiritual glory of the Universal Father. Provided with all the necessities for the journey, it is just as possible to find the personal presence of God at the center of all things as to find distant cities on your own planet. That you have not visited these places in no way disproves their reality or actual existence. That so few of the universe creatures have found God on Paradise in no way disproves either the reality of his existence or the actuality of his spiritual person at the center of all things. The Father is always to be found at this central location. Did he move, universal pandemonium would be precipitated, for there converge in him at this residential center the universal lines of gravity from the ends of creation. Whether we trace the personality circuit back through the universes or follow the ascending personalities as they journey inward to the Father, whether we trace the lines of material gravity to nether paradise or follow the insurging cycles of cosmic force, whether we trace the lines of spiritual gravity to the eternal Son or follow the inward processional of the paradise sons of God, whether we trace out the mind circuits or follow the trillions upon trillions of celestial beings who spring from the infinite Spirit, by any of these observations or by all of them, we are led directly back to the Father's presence, to his central abode. Here is God personally, literally, and actually present. And from his infinite being there flow the flood streams of life, energy, and personality to all universes. 2. Nature of the Eternal Isle. Since you are beginning to glimpse the enormousness of the material universe discernible even from your astronomical location, your space position in the starry systems, it should become evident to you that such a tremendous material universe must have an adequate and worthy capital, a headquarters commensurate with the dignity and infinitude of the universal ruler of all this vast and far-flung creation of material realms and living beings. In form, Paradise differs from the inhabited space bodies. It is not spherical. It is definitely ellipsoid, being 1/6 longer in the north-south diameter than in the east-west diameter. The central isle is essentially flat, and the distance from the upper surface to the nether surface is 1/10 that of the east-west diameter. These differences in dimensions, taken in connection with its stationary status and the greater out-pressure of force energy at the north end of the isle, make it possible to establish absolute direction in the master universe. The central aisle is geographically divided into 3 domains of activity. 1. Upper Paradise. 2. Peripheral Paradise. 3. Nether Paradise. We speak of that surface of paradise which is occupied with personality activities as the upper side, and the opposite surface as the nether side. The periphery of paradise provides for activities that are not strictly personal or non-personal. The Trinity seems to dominate the personal or upper plane, the unqualified absolute, the nether or impersonal plane. We hardly conceive of the unqualified absolute as a person, but we do think of the functional space presence of this absolute as focalized on nether paradise. The eternal isle is composed of a single form of materialization, stationary systems of reality. This literal substance of paradise is a homogeneous organization of space potency not to be found elsewhere in all the wide universe of universes. It has received many names in different universes, and the Melchizedeks of Nebadon long since named it Absolutum. This paradise source material is neither dead nor alive. It is the original non-spiritual expression of the first source and center. It is paradise, and paradise is without duplicate. It appears to us that the first source and center has concentrated all absolute potential for cosmic reality in paradise, as a part of his technique of self-liberation from infinity limitations, as a means of making possible sub-infinite, even time-space, creation. But it does not follow that paradise is time-space limited just because the universe of universes discloses these qualities. Paradise exists without time and has no location in space. Roughly, space seemingly originates just below nether paradise, time just above upper paradise. Time, as you understand it, is not a feature of paradise existence, though the citizens of the central isle are fully conscious of non-time sequence of events. Motion is not inherent on paradise. It is volitional. But the concept of distance, even absolute distance, has very much meaning as it may be applied to relative locations on paradise. Paradise is non-spatial. Hence its areas are absolute and therefore serviceable in many ways beyond the concept of mortal mind. 3. Upper Paradise. On Upper Paradise there are 3 grand spheres of activity: the deity presence, the most holy sphere, and the holy area. The vast region immediately surrounding the presence of the deities is set aside as the most holy sphere, and as reserved for the functions of worship, trinitization, and high spiritual attainment. There are no material structures nor purely intellectual creations in this zone. They could not exist there. It is useless for me to undertake to portray to the human mind the divine nature and the beauteous grandeur of the most holy sphere of paradise. This realm is wholly spiritual, and you are almost wholly material. A purely spiritual reality is, to a purely material being, apparently non-existent. While there are no physical materializations in the area of the most holy, there are abundant souvenirs of your material days in the Holy Land sectors, and still more in the reminiscent historic areas of peripheral paradise. The holy area, the outlying or residential region, is divided into 7 concentric zones. Paradise is sometimes called the Father's house, since it is his eternal residence, and these 7 zones are often designated the Father's paradise mansions. The inner or first zone is occupied by paradise citizens and the natives of Havona who may chance to be dwelling on paradise. The next or second zone is the residential area of the natives of the 7 super-universes of time and space. This second zone is in part subdivided into 7 immense divisions, the paradise home of the spirit beings and ascendant creatures who hail from the universes of evolutionary progression. Each of these sectors is exclusively dedicated to the welfare and advancement of the personalities of a single super-universe. But these facilities are almost infinitely beyond the requirements of the present 7 super-universes. Each of the 7 sectors of paradise is subdivided into residential units suitable for the lodgment headquarters of 1 billion glorified individual working groups. 1,000 of these units constitute a division. 100,000 divisions equal 1 congregation. 10 million congregations constitute an assembly. 1 billion assemblies make 1 grand unit. And this ascending series continues through the 2nd grand unit, the 3rd, and so on to the 7th grand unit. And 7 of the grand units make up the master units, and 7 of the master units constitute a superior unit, and thus by 7s the ascending series expands through the superior, super-superior, celestial, super-celestial to the supreme units. But even this does not utilize all the space available. This staggering number of residential designations on paradise, a number beyond your concept, occupies considerably less than 1% of the assigned area of the Holy Land. There is still plenty of room for those who are on their way inward, even for those who shall not start the paradise climb until the times of the eternal future. 4. Peripheral Paradise. The central aisle ends abruptly at the periphery, but its size is so enormous that this terminal angle is relatively indiscernible within any circumscribed area. The peripheral surface of paradise is occupied, in part, by the landing and dispatching fields for various groups of spirit personalities. Since the non-pervaded space zones nearly impinge upon the periphery, all personality transports destined to paradise land in these regions. Neither upper nor nether paradise is approachable by transport supernifim or other types of space traversers. The 7 master spirits have their personal seats of power and authority on the 7 spheres of the spirit, which circle about paradise in the space between the shining orbs of the sun and the inner circuit of the Havona worlds, but they maintain force focal headquarters on the paradise periphery. Here, the slowly circulating presences of the 7 supreme power directors indicate the location of the 7 flash stations for certain paradise energies going forth to the 7 super-universes. Here on peripheral paradise are the enormous historic and prophetic exhibit areas assigned to the Creator's sons, dedicated to the local universes of time and space. There are just 7 trillion of these historic reservations now set up or in reserve, but these arrangements altogether occupy only about 4% of that portion of the peripheral area thus assigned. We infer that these vast reserves belong to creation sometime to be situated beyond the borders of the present known and inhabited 7 super-universes. That portion of paradise which has been designated for the use of the existing universes is occupied only from 1 to 4%, while the area assigned to these activities is at least 1 million times that actually required for such purposes. Paradise is large enough to accommodate the activities of an almost infinite creation. But a further attempt to visualize to you the glories of paradise would be futile. You must wait, and ascend while you wait, for truly, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, neither has it entered into the mind of mortal man, the things which the Universal Father has prepared for those who survive the life in the flesh on the worlds of time and space. 5. Nether Paradise. Concerning nether paradise, we know only that which is revealed. Personalities do not sojourn there. It has nothing whatever to do with the affairs of spirit intelligences, nor does the deity absolute there function. We are informed that all physical energy and cosmic force circuits have their origin on Nether Paradise, and that it is constituted as follows. 1. Directly underneath the location of the Trinity, in the central portion of Nether Paradise, is the unknown and unrevealed zone of infinity. 2. This zone is immediately surrounded by an unnamed area. 3. Occupying the outer margins of the undersurface is a region having mainly to do with space potency and force energy. The activities of this vast elliptical force center are not identifiable with the known functions of any triunity, but the primordial force charge of space appears to be focalized in this area. This center consists of 3 concentric elliptical zones. The innermost is the focal point of the force energy activities of Paradise itself. The outermost may possibly be identified with the functions of the unqualified absolute, but we are not certain concerning the space functions of the mid-zone. The inner zone of this force center seems to act as a gigantic heart whose pulsations direct currents to the outermost borders of physical space. It directs and modifies force energies but hardly drives them. The reality pressure presence of this primal force is definitely greater at the north end of the Paradise Center than in the southern regions. This is a uniformly registered difference. The mother force of space seems to flow in at the south and out at the north through the operation of some unknown circulatory system which is concerned with the diffusion of this basic form of force energy. From time to time, there are also noted differences in the east-west pressures. The forces emanating from this zone are not responsive to observable physical gravity, but are always obedient to Paradise gravity. The mid-zone of the force center immediately surrounds this area. This mid-zone appears to be static except that it expands and contracts through 3 cycles of activity. The least of these pulsations is in an east-west direction, the next in a north-south direction, while the greatest fluctuation is in every direction, a generalized expansion and contraction. The function of this mid-area has never been really identified, but it must have something to do with reciprocal adjustment between the inner and the outer zones of the force center. It is believed by many that the mid-zone is the control mechanism of the mid-space or quiet zones which separate the successive space levels of the master universe, but no evidence or revelation confirms this. This inference is derived from the knowledge that this mid-area is in some manner related to the functioning of the non-pervaded space mechanism of the master universe. The outer zone is the largest and most active of the 3 concentric and elliptical belts of unidentified space potential. This area is a site of unimagined activities, the central circuit point of emanations which proceed spaceward in every direction to the outermost borders of the 7 super-universes and on beyond to overspread the enormous and incomprehensible domains of all outer space. This space presence is entirely impersonal, notwithstanding that in some undisclosed manner it seems to be indirectly responsive to the will and mandates of the infinite deities when acting as the Trinity. This is believed to be the central focalization, the Paradise Center, of the space presence of the unqualified Absolute. All forms of force and all phases of energy seem to be encircuited. They circulate throughout the universes and return by definite routes. But with the emanations of the activated zone of the unqualified Absolute, there appears to be either an outgoing or an incoming, never both simultaneously. This outer zone pulsates in age-long cycles of gigantic proportions. For a little more than 1 billion Urantia years, the space force of this center is outgoing. Then for a similar length of time, it will be incoming. And the space force manifestations of this center are universal. They extend throughout all pervadable space. All physical force, energy, and matter are one. All force energy originally proceeded from nether paradise and will eventually return thereto following the completion of its space circuit. But the energies and material organizations of the universe of universes did not all come from nether paradise in their present phenomenal states. Space is the womb of several forms of matter and pre-matter. Though the outer zone of the Paradise Force Center is the source of space energies, space does not originate there. Space is not force, energy, or power. Nor do the pulsations of this zone account for the respiration of space, but the incoming and outgoing phases of this zone are synchronized with the 2 billion-year expansion-contraction cycles of space. 6. Space respiration. We do not know the actual mechanism of space respiration. We merely observe that all space alternately contracts and expands. This respiration affects both the horizontal extension of pervaded space and the vertical extensions of unpervaded space which exist in the vast space reservoirs above and below paradise. In attempting to imagine the volume outlines of these space reservoirs, you might think of an hourglass. As the universes of the horizontal extension of pervaded space expand, the reservoirs of the vertical extension of unpervaded space contract and vice versa. There is a confluence of pervaded and unpervaded space just underneath nether paradise. Both types of space there flow through the transmuting regulation channels, where changes are wrought making pervadable space non-pervadable, and vice versa in the contraction and expansion cycles of the cosmos. Unpervaded space means unpervaded by those forces, energies, powers, and presences known to exist in pervaded space. We do not know whether vertical reservoir space is destined always to function as the equipoise of horizontal universe space. We do not know whether there is a creative intent concerning unpervaded space. We really know very little about the space reservoirs, merely that they exist and that they seem to counterbalance the space expansion-contraction cycles of the universe of universes. The cycles of space respiration extend in each phase for a little more than 1 billion Urantia years. During one phase, the universes expand. During the next, they contract. Pervaded space is now approaching the midpoint of the expanding phase, while unpervaded space nears the midpoint of the contracting phase, and we are informed that the outermost limits of both space extensions are, theoretically, now approximately equidistant from paradise. The unpervaded space reservoirs now extend vertically above upper paradise and below nether paradise, just as far as the pervaded space of the universe extends horizontally outward from peripheral paradise to and even beyond the fourth outer space level. For 1 billion years of Urantia time, the space reservoirs contract while the master universe and the force activities of all horizontal space expand. It thus requires a little over 2 billion Urantia years to complete the entire expansion-contraction cycle. 7. Space functions of paradise. Space does not exist on any of the surfaces of paradise. If one looked directly up from the upper surface of paradise, one would see nothing but unpervaded space going out or coming in, just now coming in. Space does not touch paradise. Only the quiescent mid-space zones come in contact with the central isle. Paradise is the actually motionless nucleus of the relatively quiescent zones existing between pervaded and unpervaded space. Geographically, these zones appear to be a relative extension of paradise, but there probably is some motion in them. We know very little about them, but we observe that these zones of lessened space motion separate pervaded and unpervaded space. Similar zones once existed between the levels of pervaded space, but these are now less quiescent. The vertical cross-section of total space would slightly resemble a Maltese cross, with the horizontal arms representing pervaded universe space and the vertical arms representing unpervaded reservoir space. The areas between the four arms would separate them somewhat as the mid-space zones separate pervaded and unpervaded space. These quiescent mid-space zones grow larger and larger at greater and greater distances from paradise and eventually encompass the borders of all space and completely encapsulate both the space reservoirs and the entire horizontal extension of pervaded space. Space is neither a sub-absolute condition within, nor the presence of the unqualified absolute. Neither is it a function of the ultimate. It is a bestowal of paradise, and the space of the grand universe and that of all outer regions is believed to be actually pervaded by the ancestral space potency of the unqualified absolute. From near approach to peripheral paradise, this pervaded space extends horizontally outward through the fourth space level and beyond the periphery of the master universe. But how far beyond, we do not know. If you imagine a finite, but inconceivably large, V-shaped plane situated at right angles to both the upper and lower surfaces of paradise, with its point nearly tangent to peripheral paradise, and then visualize this plane in elliptical revolution about paradise, its revolution would roughly outline the volume of pervaded space. There is an upper and a lower limit to horizontal space with reference to any given location in the universes. If one could move far enough at right angles to the plane of Orvantan, either up or down, eventually the upper or lower limit of pervaded space would be encountered. Within the known dimensions of the master universe, these limits draw farther and farther apart at greater and greater distances from paradise. Space thickens, and it thickens somewhat faster than does the plane of creation, the universes. The relatively quiet zones between the space levels, such as the one separating the 7 super-universes from the first outer space level, are enormous elliptical regions of quiescent space activities. These zones separate the vast galaxies which race around paradise in orderly procession. You may visualize the first outer space level, where untold universes are now in process of formation, as a vast procession of galaxies swinging around paradise, bounded above and below by the mid-space zones of quiescence and bounded on the inner and outer margins by relatively quiet space zones. A space level thus functions as an elliptical region of motion surrounded on all sides by relative motionlessness. Such relationships of motion and quiescence constitute a curved space path of lessened resistance to motion, which is universally followed by cosmic force and emergent energy as they circle forever around the Isle of Paradise. This alternate zoning of the master universe, in association with the alternate clockwise and counterclockwise flow of the galaxies, is a factor in the stabilization of physical gravity designed to prevent the accentuation of gravity pressure to the point of disruptive and dispersive activities. Such an arrangement exerts anti-gravity influence and acts as a brake upon otherwise dangerous velocities. 8. Paradise gravity. The inescapable pull of gravity effectively grips all the worlds of all the universes of all space. Gravity is the all-powerful grasp of the physical presence of paradise. Gravity is the omnipotent strand on which are strung the gleaming stars, blazing suns, and whirling spheres which constitute the universal physical adornment of the eternal God, who is all things, fills all things, and in whom all things consist. The center and focal point of absolute material gravity is the Isle of Paradise, complemented by the dark gravity bodies encircling Havona and equilibrated by the upper and nether space reservoirs. All known emanations of nether paradise invariably and unerringly respond to the central gravity pull operating upon the endless circuits of the elliptical space levels of the master universe. Every known form of cosmic reality has the bend of the ages, the trend of the circle, the swing of the great ellipse. Space is non-responsive to gravity, but it acts as an equilibrant on gravity. Without the space cushion, explosive action would jerk surrounding space bodies. Pervaded space also exerts an anti-gravity influence upon physical or linear gravity. Space can actually neutralize such gravity action even though it cannot delay it. Absolute gravity is paradise gravity. Local or linear gravity pertains to the electrical stage of energy or matter. It operates within the central, super, and outer universes wherever suitable materialization has taken place. The numerous forms of cosmic force, physical energy, universe power, and various materializations disclose three general, though not perfectly clear-cut, stages of response to paradise gravity. 1. Pre-gravity stages, force. This is the first step in the individuation of space potency into the pre-energy forms of cosmic force. This state is analogous to the concept of the primordial force charge of space, sometimes called pure energy or segregata. 2. Gravity stages, energy. This modification of the force charge of space is produced by the action of the Paradise Force organizers. It signalizes the appearance of energy systems responsive to the pull of Paradise gravity. This emergent energy is originally neutral, but consequent upon further metamorphosis will exhibit the so-called negative and positive qualities. We designate these stages ultimata. 3. Post-gravity stages, universe power. In this stage, energy matter discloses response to the control of linear gravity. In the central universe, these physical systems are threefold organizations known as triata. They are the superpower mother systems of the creations of time and space. The physical systems of the super-universes are mobilized by the universe power directors and their associates. These material organizations are dual in constitution and are known as gravita. The dark gravity bodies encircling Havona are neither triata nor gravita, and their drawing power discloses both forms of physical gravity, linear and absolute. Space potency is not subject to the interactions of any form of gravitation. This primal endowment of paradise is not an actual level of reality, but it is ancestral to all relative functional non-spirit realities, all manifestations of force energy, and the organization of power and matter. Space potency is a term difficult to define. It does not mean that which is ancestral to space. Its meaning should convey the idea of the potencies and potentials existent within space. It may be roughly conceived to include all those absolute influences and potentials which emanate from paradise and constitute the space presence of the unqualified absolute. Paradise is the absolute source and the eternal focal point of all energy matter in the universe of universes. The unqualified absolute is the revealer, regulator, and repository of that which has paradise as its source and origin. The universal presence of the unqualified absolute seems to be equivalent to the concept of a potential infinity of gravity extension, an elastic tension of paradise presence. This concept aids us in grasping the fact that everything is drawn inward towards paradise. The illustration is crude but nonetheless helpful. It also explains why gravity always acts preferentially in the plane perpendicular to the mass, a phenomenon indicative of the differential dimensions of paradise and the surrounding creations. 9. the uniqueness of paradise. Paradise is unique in that it is the realm of primal origin and the final goal of destiny for all spirit personalities. Although it is true that not all of the lower spirit beings of the local universes are immediately destined to paradise, paradise still remains the goal of desire for all supermaterial personalities. Paradise is the geographic center of infinity. It is not a part of universal creation, not even a real part of the eternal Havona universe. We commonly refer to the central isle as belonging to the divine universe, but it really does not. Paradise is an eternal and exclusive existence. In the eternity of the past, when the Universal Father gave infinite personality expression of his spirit self in the being of the Eternal Son, simultaneously he revealed the infinity potential of his non-personal self as paradise. Non-personal and non-spiritual paradise appears to have been the inevitable repercussion to the Father's will and act which eternalized the original Son. Thus did the Father project reality in two actual phases, the personal and the non-personal, the spiritual and the non-spiritual. The tension between them, in the face of will to action by the Father and the Son, gave existence to the conjoint actor and the central universe of material worlds and spiritual beings. When reality is differentiated into the personal and the non-personal, eternal Son and paradise, it is hardly proper to call that which is non-personal deity unless somehow qualified. The energy and material repercussions of the acts of deity could hardly be called deity. Deity may cause much that is not deity, and paradise is not deity. Neither is it conscious as mortal man could ever possibly understand such a term. Paradise is not ancestral to any being or living entity. It is not a creator. Personality and mind-spirit relationships are transmissible, but pattern is not. Patterns are never reflections. They are duplications, reproductions. Paradise is the absolute of patterns. Havona is an exhibit of these potentials in actuality. God's residence is central and eternal, glorious and ideal. His home is the beauteous pattern for all universe headquarters worlds, and the central universe of his immediate indwelling is the pattern for all universes in their ideals, organization, and ultimate destiny. Paradise is the universal headquarters of all personality activities and the source center of all force, space, and energy manifestations. Everything which has been, now is, or is yet to be, has come, now comes, or will come forth from this central abiding place of the eternal gods. Paradise is the center of all creation, the source of all energies, and the place of primal origin of all personalities. After all, to mortals the most important thing about eternal paradise is the fact that this perfect abode of the Universal Father is the real and far distant destiny of the immortal souls of the mortal and material sons of God, the ascending creatures of the evolutionary worlds of time and space. Every God-knowing mortal who has espoused the career of doing the Father's will has already embarked upon the long, long paradise trail of divinity pursuit and perfection attainment. And when such an animal origin being does stand, as countless numbers now do, before the gods on paradise, having ascended from the lowly spheres of space, such an achievement represents the reality of a spiritual transformation bordering on the limits of supremacy.
Presented by a perfecter of wisdom commissioned thus to function by the Ancients of Days on Uversa.
Paper 12. The Universe of Universes. The immensity of the far-flung creation of the Universal Father is utterly beyond the grasp of finite imagination. The enormousness of the master universe staggers the concept of even my order of being, but the mortal mind can be taught much about the plan and arrangement of the universes. You can know something of their physical organization and marvelous administration. You may learn much about the various groups of intelligent beings who inhabit the 7 super-universes of time and the central universe of eternity. In principle, that is, in eternal potential, we conceive of material creation as being infinite because the Universal Father is actually infinite. But as we study and observe the total material creation, we know that at any given moment in time it is limited, although to your finite minds it is comparatively limitless, virtually boundless. We are convinced, from the study of physical law and from the observation of the starry realms, that the infinite Creator is not yet manifest in finality of cosmic expression, that much of the cosmic potential of the infinite is still self-contained and unrevealed. To created beings, the master universe might appear to be almost infinite, but it is far from finished. There are still physical limits to the material creation, and the experiential revelation of the eternal purpose is still in progress. 1. Space levels of the master universe. The universe of universes is not an infinite plane, a boundless cube, nor a limitless circle. It certainly has dimensions. The laws of physical organization and administration prove conclusively that the whole vast aggregation of force energy and matter power functions ultimately as a space unit, as an organized and coordinated whole. The observable behavior of the material creation constitutes evidence of a physical universe of definite limits. The final proof of both a circular and delimited universe is afforded by the, to us, well-known fact that all forms of basic energy ever swing around the curved path of the space levels of the master universe in obedience to the incessant and absolute pull of paradise gravity. The successive space levels of the master universe constitute the major divisions of pervaded space, total creation, organized and partially inhabited or yet to be organized and inhabited. If the master universe were not a series of elliptical space levels of lessened resistance to motion, alternating with zones of relative quiescence, we conceive that some of the cosmic energies would be observed to shoot off on an infinite range, off on a straight-line path into trackless space. But we never find force, energy, or matter thus behaving. Ever they whirl, always swinging onward in the tracks of the great space circuits. Proceeding outward from paradise through the horizontal extension of pervaded space, the master universe is existent in 6 concentric ellipses, the space levels encircling the central aisle. 1. The central universe, Havona. 2. The 7 super-universes. 3. The first outer space level. 4. The second outer space level. 5. The third outer space level. 6. The fourth and outermost space level. Havona, the central universe, is not a time creation. It is an eternal existence. This never-beginning, never-ending universe consists of 1 billion spheres of sublime perfection and is surrounded by the enormous dark gravity bodies. At the center of Havona is the stationary and absolutely stabilized Isle of Paradise, surrounded by its 21 satellites. Owing to the enormous encircling masses of the dark gravity bodies about the fringe of the central universe, the mass content of this central creation is far in excess of the total known mass of all 7 sectors of the grand universe. The Paradise Havona system, the eternal universe encircling the eternal isle, constitutes the perfect and eternal nucleus of the master universe. All 7 of the super-universes and all regions of outer space revolve in established orbits around the gigantic central aggregation of the Paradise satellites and the Havona spheres. The 7 superuniverses are not primary physical organizations. Nowhere do their boundaries divide a nebular family, neither do they cross a local universe, a prime creative unit. Each superuniverse is simply a geographic space clustering of approximately 1/7 of the organized and partially inhabited post-Havona creation, and each is about equal in the number of local universes embraced and in the space encompassed. Nebadon, your local universe, is one of the newer creations in Orvantan, the 7th superuniverse. The grand universe is the present organized and inhabited creation. It consists of the 7 superuniverses, with an aggregate evolutionary potential of around 7 trillion inhabited planets, not to mention the eternal spheres of the central creation. But this tentative estimate takes no account of architectural administrative spheres. Neither does it include the outlying groups of unorganized universes. The present ragged edge of the grand universe, its uneven and unfinished periphery, together with the tremendously unsettled condition of the whole astronomical plot, suggests to our star students that even the 7 superuniverses are as yet uncompleted. As we move from within, from the divine center, outward in any one direction, we do eventually come to the outer limits of the organized and inhabited creation. We come to the outer limits of the grand universe. And it is near this outer border, in a far-off corner of such a magnificent creation, that your local universe has its eventful existence. The outer space levels. Far out in space, at an enormous distance from the 7 inhabited superuniverses, there are assembling vast and unbelievably stupendous circuits of force and materializing energies. Between the energy circuits of the 7 superuniverses and this gigantic outer belt of force activity, there is a space zone of comparative quiet, which varies in width but averages about 400,000 light-years. These space zones are free from stardust, cosmic fog. Our students of these phenomena are in doubt as to the exact status of the space forces existing in this zone of relative quiet which encircles the 7 superuniverses. But about 500,000 light-years beyond the periphery of the present grand universe, we observe the beginnings of a zone of an unbelievable energy action, which increases in volume and intensity for over 25 million light-years. These tremendous wheels of energizing forces are situated in the first outer space level, a continuous belt of cosmic activity encircling the whole of the known, organized, and inhabited creation. Still greater activities are taking place beyond these regions, for the Uversa physicists have detected early evidence of force manifestations more than 50 million light-years beyond the outermost ranges of the phenomena in the first outer space level. These activities undoubtedly presage the organization of the material creations of the second outer space level of the master universe. The central universe is the creation of eternity. The 7 superuniverses are the creations of time. The 4 outer space levels are undoubtedly destined to evolve the ultimacy of creation. And there are those who maintain that the infinite can never attain full expression short of infinity, and therefore do they postulate an additional and unrevealed creation beyond the 4th and outermost space level, a possible ever-expanding, never-ending universe of infinity. In theory, we do not know how to limit either the infinity of the Creator or the potential infinity of creation, but as it exists and is administered, we regard the master universe as having limitations, as being definitely delimited and bounded on its outer margins by open space. 2. The domains of the unqualified absolute. When Urantia astronomers peer through their increasingly powerful telescopes into the mysterious stretches of outer space, and there behold the amazing evolution of almost countless physical universes, they should realize that they are gazing upon the mighty outworking of the unsearchable plans of the architects of the master universe. True, we do possess evidences which are suggestive of the presence of certain paradise personality influences here and there throughout the vast energy manifestations now characteristic of these outer regions. But from the larger viewpoint, the space regions extending beyond the outer borders of the 7 super-universes are generally recognized as constituting the domains of the unqualified absolute. Although the unaided human eye can see only 2 or 3 nebulae outside the borders of the super-universe of Orvanton, your telescopes literally reveal millions upon millions of these physical universes in process of formation. Most of the starry realms, visually exposed to the search of your present-day telescopes, are in Orvanton, but with photographic technique, the larger telescopes penetrate far beyond the borders of the grand universe into the domains of outer space, where untold universes are in process of organization. And there are yet other millions of universes beyond the range of your present instruments. In the not-distant future, new telescopes will reveal to the wondering gaze of Urantian astronomers no less than 375 million new galaxies in the remote stretches of outer space. At the same time, these more powerful telescopes will disclose that many island universes, formerly believed to be in outer space, are really a part of the galactic system of Orvanton. The 7 super-universes are still growing. The periphery of each is gradually expanding. New nebulae are constantly being stabilized and organized, and some of the nebulae which Urantian astronomers regard as extragalactic are actually on the fringe of Orvanton and are traveling along with us. The Uversa star students observe that the grand universe is surrounded by the ancestors of a series of starry and planetary clusters which completely encircle the present inhabited creation as concentric rings of outer universes upon universes. The physicists of Uversa calculate that the energy and matter of these outer and uncharted regions already equal many times the total material mass and energy charge embraced in all 7 super-universes. We are informed that the metamorphosis of cosmic force in these outer space levels is a function of the paradise force organizers. We also know that these forces are ancestral to those physical energies which at present activate the grand universe. The Orvanton power directors, however, have nothing to do with these far-distant realms. Neither are the energy movements therein discernibly connected with the power circuits of the organized and inhabited creations. We know very little of the significance of these tremendous phenomena of outer space. A greater creation of the future is in process of formation. We can observe its immensity, we can discern its extent and sense its majestic dimensions, but otherwise we know little more about these realms than do the astronomers of Urantia. As far as we know, no material beings on the order of humans, no angels or other spirit creatures exist in this outer ring of nebulae, suns and planets. This distant domain is beyond the jurisdiction and administration of the superuniverse governments. Throughout Orvanton, it is believed that a new type of creation is in process, an order of universes destined to become the scene of the future activities of the assembling core of the finality. And if our conjectures are correct, then the endless future may hold for all of you the same enthralling spectacles that the endless past has held for your seniors and predecessors. 3. Universal gravity. All forms of force energy, material, mindal, or spiritual, are alike subject to those grasps, those universal presences, which we call gravity. Personality also is responsive to gravity, to the Father's exclusive circuit. But though this circuit is exclusive to the Father, he is not excluded from the other circuits. The Universal Father is infinite and acts over all 4 absolute gravity circuits in the Master Universe. 1. The personality gravity of the universal Father. 2. The spirit gravity of the eternal Son. 3. The mind gravity of the conjoint actor. 4. The cosmic gravity of the Isle of Paradise. These 4 circuits are not related to the Nether Paradise Force Center. They are neither force, energy, nor power circuits. They are absolute, presence circuits, and like God are independent of time and space. In this connection, it is interesting to record certain observations made on Uversa during recent millenniums by the Core of Gravity researchers. This expert group of workers has arrived at the following conclusions regarding the different gravity systems of the Master Universe. 1. Physical gravity. Having formulated an estimate of the summation of the entire physical gravity capacity of the grand universe, they have laboriously effected a comparison of this finding with the estimated total of absolute gravity presence now operative. These calculations indicate that the total gravity action on the grand universe is a very small part of the estimated gravity pull of Paradise, computed on the basis of the gravity response of basic physical units of universe matter. These investigators reached the amazing conclusion that the central universe and the surrounding 7 superuniverses are at the present time making use of only about 5% of the active functioning of the Paradise absolute gravity grasp. In other words, at the present moment about 95% of the active cosmic gravity action of the Isle of Paradise, computed on this totality theory, is engaged in controlling material systems beyond the borders of the present organized universes. These calculations all refer to absolute gravity. Linear gravity is an interactive phenomenon which can be computed only by knowing the actual Paradise gravity. 2. Spiritual gravity. By the same technique of comparative estimation and calculation, these researchers have explored the present reaction capacity of spirit gravity, and, with the cooperation of solitary messengers and other spirit personalities, have arrived at the summation of the active spirit gravity of the second source and center. And it is most instructive to note that they find about the same value for the actual and functional presence of spirit gravity in the grand universe that they postulate for the present total of active spirit gravity. In other words, at the present time, practically the entire spirit gravity of the eternal Son, computed on this theory of totality, is observable as functioning in the grand universe. If these findings are dependable, we may conclude that the universes now evolving in outer space are at the present time wholly non-spiritual. And if this is true, it would satisfactorily explain why spirit-endowed beings are in possession of little or no information about these vast energy manifestations, aside from knowing the fact of their physical existence. 3. Mind gravity. By these same principles of comparative computation, these experts have attacked the problem of mind gravity presence and response. The mind unit of estimation was arrived at by averaging 3 material and 3 spiritual types of mentality, although the type of mind found in the power directors and their associates proved to be a disturbing factor in the effort to arrive at a basic unit for mind gravity estimation. There was little to impede the estimation of the present capacity of the third source and center for mind gravity function in accordance with this theory of totality. Although the findings in this instance are not so conclusive as in the estimates of physical and spirit gravity, they are, comparatively considered, very instructive, even intriguing. These investigators deduce that about 85% of the mind gravity response to the intellectual drawing of the conjoint actor takes origin in the existing grand universe. This would suggest the possibility that mind activities are involved in connection with the observable physical activities now in progress throughout the realms of outer space. While this estimate is probably far from accurate, it accords in principle with our belief that intelligent force organizers are at present directing universe evolution in the space levels beyond the present outer limits of the grand universe. Whatever the nature of this postulated intelligence, it is apparently not spirit gravity responsive. But all these computations are at best estimates based on assumed laws. We think they are fairly reliable. Even if a few spirit beings were located in outer space, their collective presence would not markedly influence calculations involving such enormous measurements. Personality gravity is non-computable. We recognize the circuit, but we cannot measure either qualitative or quantitative realities responsive thereto. 4. Space and motion. All units of cosmic energy are in primary revolution, are engaged in the execution of their mission, while swinging around the universal orbit. The universes of space and their component systems and worlds are all revolving spheres, moving along the endless circuits of the master universe space levels. Absolutely nothing is stationary in all the master universe except the very center of Havona, the eternal isle of paradise, the center of gravity. The unqualified absolute is functionally limited to space, but we are not so sure about the relation of this absolute to motion. Is motion inherent therein? We do not know. We know that motion is not inherent in space. Even the motions of space are not innate. But we are not so sure about the relation of the unqualified to motion. Who or what is really responsible for the gigantic activities of force-energy transmutations now in progress out beyond the borders of the present 7 superuniverses? Concerning the origin of motion, we have the following opinions. 1. We think the conjoint actor initiates motion in space. 2. If the conjoint actor produces the motions of space, we cannot prove it. 3. The universal absolute does not originate initial motion, but does equalize and control all of the tensions originated by motion. In outer space, the force organizers are apparently responsible for the production of the gigantic universe wheels, which are now in process of stellar evolution, but their ability so to function must have been made possible by some modification of the space presence of the unqualified absolute. Space is, from the human viewpoint, nothing, negative. It exists only as related to something positive and non-spatial. Space is, however, real. It contains and conditions motion. It even moves. Space motions may be roughly classified as follows. 1. Primary motion. Space respiration, the motion of space itself. 2. Secondary motion, the alternate directional swings of the successive space levels. 3. Relative motions. Relative in the sense that they are not evaluated with paradise as a base point. Primary and secondary motions are absolute, motion in relation to unmoving paradise. 4. Compensatory or correlating movement designated to coordinate all other motions. The present relationship of your sun and its associated planets, while disclosing many relative and absolute motions in space, tends to convey the impression to astronomic observers that you are comparatively stationary in space, and that the surrounding starry clusters and streams are engaged in outward flight at ever-increasing velocities as your calculations proceed outward in space, but such is not the case. You fail to recognize the present outward and uniform expansion of the physical creations of all pervaded space. Your own local creation, Nebadon, participates in this movement of universal outward expansion. The entire 7 superuniverses participate in the 2 billion-year cycles of space respiration along with the outer regions of the master universe. When the universes expand and contract, the material masses in pervaded space alternately move against and with the pull of paradise gravity. The work that is done in moving the material energy mass of creation is space work, but not power energy work. Although your spectroscopic estimations of astronomic velocities are fairly reliable when applied to the starry realms belonging to your superuniverse and its associate superuniverses, such reckonings with reference to the realms of outer space are wholly unreliable. Spectral lines are displaced from the normal towards the violet by an approaching star. Likewise, these lines are displaced towards the red by a receding star. Many influences interpose to make it appear that the recessional velocity of the external universes increases at the rate of more than 100 miles a second for every million light-years increase in distance. By this method of reckoning, subsequent to the perfection of more powerful telescopes, it will appear that these far-distant systems are in flight from this part of the universe at the unbelievable rate of more than 30,000 miles a second. But this apparent speed of recession is not real. It results from numerous factors of error, embracing angles of observation and other time-space distortions. But the greatest of all such distortions arises because the vast universes of outer space in the realms next to the domains of the 7 superuniverses seem to be revolving in a direction opposite to that of the grand universe. That is, these myriads of nebulae and their accompanying suns and spheres are at the present time revolving clockwise about the central creation. The 7 superuniverses revolve about Paradise in a counterclockwise direction. It appears that the second outer universe of galaxies, like the 7 superuniverses, revolves counterclockwise about Paradise, and the astronomic observers of Uversa think they detect evidence of revolutionary movements in a third outer belt of far-distant space, which are beginning to exhibit directional tendencies of a clockwise nature. It is probable that these alternate directions of successive space processions of the universes have something to do with the intramaster universe gravity technique of the universal absolute, which consists of a coordination of forces and an equalization of space tensions. Motion, as well as space, is a complement or equilibrant of gravity. 5. Space and time. Like space, time is a bestowal of Paradise, but not in the same sense, only indirectly. Time comes by virtue of motion and because mind is inherently aware of sequentiality. From a practical viewpoint, motion is essential to time, but there is no universal time unit based on motion, except insofar as the Paradise Havona Standard Day is arbitrarily so recognized. The totality of space respiration destroys its local value as a time source. Space is not infinite, even though it takes origin from Paradise. Not absolute, for it is pervaded by the unqualified absolute. We do not know the absolute limits of space, but we do know that the absolute of time is eternity. Time and space are inseparable only in the time-space creations, the 7 superuniverses. Non-temporal space, space without time, theoretically exists, but the only truly non-temporal place is Paradise area. Non-spatial time, time without space, exists in mind of the Paradise level of function. The relatively motionless mid-space zones impinging on Paradise and separating pervaded from unpervaded space are the transition zones from time to eternity. Hence the necessity of Paradise pilgrims becoming unconscious during this transit, when it is to culminate in Paradise citizenship. Time-conscious visitors can go to Paradise without thus sleeping, but they remain creatures of time. Relationships to time do not exist without motion in space, but consciousness of time does. Sequentiality can consciousize time, even in the absence of motion. Man's mind is less time-bound than space-bound because of the inherent nature of mind. Even during the days of the earth life in the flesh, though man's mind is rigidly space-bound, the creative human imagination is comparatively time-free. But time itself is not genetically a quality of mind. There are 3 different levels of time cognizance. 1. Mind-perceived time. Consciousness of sequence, motion, and a sense of duration. 2. Spirit-perceived time. Insight into motion Godward and the awareness of the motion of ascent to levels of increasing divinity. 3. Personality creates a unique time sense out of insight into reality, plus a consciousness of presence and an awareness of duration. Unspiritual animals know only the past and live in the present. Spirit-indwelt man has powers of prevision, insight. He may visualize the future. Only forward-looking and progressive attitudes are personally real. Static ethics and traditional morality are just slightly superanimal. Nor is Stoicism a high order of self-realization. Ethics and morals become truly human when they are dynamic and progressive, alive with universe reality. The human personality is not merely a concomitant of time and space events. The human personality can also act as the cosmic cause of such events. 6. Universal overcontrol. The universe is non-static. Stability is not the result of inertia, but rather the product of balanced energies, cooperative minds, coordinated Urantias, spirit overcontrol, and personality unification. Stability is wholly and always proportional to divinity. In the physical control of the Master Universe, the Universal Father exercises priority and primacy through the Isle of Paradise. God is absolute in the spiritual administration of the cosmos in the person of the Eternal Son. Concerning the domains of mind, the Father and the Son function coordinately in the conjoint actor. The third source and center assists in the maintenance of the equilibrium and coordination of the combined physical and spiritual energies in organizations by the absoluteness of his grasp of the cosmic mind and by the exercise of his inherent and universal physical and spiritual gravity complements. Whenever and wherever there occurs a liaison between the material and the spiritual, such a mind phenomenon is an act of the infinite spirit. Mind alone can interassociate the physical forces and energies of the material level with the spiritual powers and beings of the spirit level. In all your contemplation of universal phenomena, make certain that you take into consideration the interrelation of physical, intellectual, and spiritual energies, and that due allowance is made for the unexpected phenomena attendant upon their unification by personality, and for the unpredictable phenomena resulting from the actions and reactions of experiential deity in the absolutes. The universe is highly predictable only in the quantitative or gravity measurement sense. Even the primal physical forces are not responsive to linear gravity, nor are the higher mind meanings and true spirit values of ultimate universe realities. Qualitatively, the universe is not highly predictable as regards new associations of forces, either physical, mindal, or spiritual, although many such combinations of energies or forces become partially predictable when subjected to critical observation. When matter, mind, and spirit are unified by creature personality,
Paper 13. The Sacred Spheres of Paradise. Between the central Isle of Paradise and the innermost of the Havona planetary circuits, there are situated in space 3 lesser circuits of special spheres. The innermost circuit consists of the 7 secret spheres of the Universal Father. The second group is composed of the 7 luminous worlds of the Eternal Sun. In the outermost are the 7 immense spheres of the Infinite Spirit, the executive headquarters worlds of the 7 Master Spirits. These 3 7-world circuits of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are spheres of unexcelled grandeur and unimagined glory. Even their material or physical construction is of an order unrevealed to you. Each circuit is diverse in material, and each world of each circuit is different, excepting the 7 worlds of the Sun, which are alike in physical constitution. All 21 are enormous spheres, and each group of 7 is differently eternalized. As far as we know, they have always been. Like Paradise, they are eternal. There exists neither record nor tradition of their origin. The 7 secret spheres of the Universal Father, circulating about Paradise in close proximity to the Eternal Isle, are highly reflective of the spiritual luminosity of the central shining of the eternal deities, shedding this light of divine glory throughout Paradise and even upon the 7 circuits of Havona. On the 7 sacred worlds of the Eternal Sun, there appear to take origin the impersonal energies of spirit luminosity. No personal being may sojourn on any of these 7 shining realms. With spiritual glory they illuminate all Paradise and Havona, and they directionize pure spirit luminosity to the 7 superuniverses. These brilliant spheres of the second circuit likewise emit their light without heat, to Paradise and to the billion worlds of the 7-circuited central universe. The 7 worlds of the Infinite Spirit are occupied by the 7 Master Spirits, who preside over the destinies of the 7 superuniverses, sending forth the spiritual illumination of the third person of deity to these creations of time and space. And all Havona, but not the Isle of Paradise, is bathed in these spiritualizing influences. Although the worlds of the Father are ultimate status spheres for all Father-endowed personalities, this is not their exclusive function. Many beings and entities other than personal sojourn on these worlds. Each world in the circuit of the Father and the circuit of the Spirit has a distinct type of permanent citizenship, but we think the Sun's worlds are inhabited by uniform types of other than personal beings. Father fragments are among the natives of Divinington. The other orders of permanent citizenship are unrevealed to you. The 21 Paradise satellites serve many purposes in both central and superuniverses not disclosed in these narratives. You are able to understand so little of the life of these spheres that you cannot hope to gain anything like a consistent view of them, either as to nature or function. Thousands of activities are there going on which are unrevealed to you. These 21 spheres embrace the potentials of the function of the Master Universe. These papers afford only a fleeting glimpse of certain circumscribed activities pertaining to the present universe age of the Grand Universe, rather one of the 7 sectors of the Grand Universe. 1. The 7 sacred worlds of the Father. The Father's circuit of sacred life spheres contains the only inherent personality secrets in the universe of universes. These satellites of Paradise, the innermost of the 3 circuits, are the only forbidden domains concerned with personality in the central universe. Nether Paradise and the worlds of the Sun are likewise closed to personalities, but neither of those realms is in any way directly concerned with personality. The Paradise worlds of the Father are directed by the highest order of the stationary sons of the Trinity, the trinitized secrets of supremacy. Of these worlds I can tell little. Of their manifold activities I may tell less. Such information concerns only those beings who function thereon and go forth therefrom. And though I am somewhat familiar with 6 of these special worlds, never have I landed on Divinington. That world is wholly forbidden to me. One of the reasons for the secrecy of these worlds is because each of these sacred spheres enjoys a specialized representation or manifestation of the deities composing the Paradise Trinity. Not a personality, but a unique presence of divinity which can only be appreciated and comprehended by those particular groups of intelligences resident on or admissible to that particular sphere. The trinitized secrets of supremacy are the personal agents of these specialized and impersonal presences of divinity. And the secrets of supremacy are highly personal beings, superbly endowed and marvelously adapted to their exalted and exacting work. 1. Divinington. This world is, in a unique sense, the bosom of the Father, the personal communion sphere of the Universal Father, and thereon is a special manifestation of His divinity. Divinington is the paradise rendezvous of the thought adjusters, but it is also the home of numerous other entities, personalities, and other beings taking origin in the Universal Father. Many personalities besides the Eternal Son are of direct origin by the solitary acts of the Universal Father. Only the Father fragments and those personalities and other beings of direct and exclusive origin in the Universal Father fraternize and function on this abode. The secrets of Divinington include the secret of the bestowal and mission of thought adjusters. Their nature, origin, and the technique of their contact with the lowly creatures of the evolutionary worlds is a secret of this paradise sphere. These amazing transactions do not personally concern the rest of us, and therefore do the deities deem it proper to withhold certain features of this great and divine ministry from our full understanding. Insofar as we come in contact with this phase of divine activity, we are permitted full knowledge of these transactions, but concerning the intimate details of this great bestowal, we are not fully informed. This sphere also holds the secrets of the nature, purpose, and activities of all other forms of Father fragments, of the gravity messengers, and of hosts of other beings unrevealed to you. It is highly probable that those truths pertaining to Divinington which are withheld from me, if revealed, would merely confuse and handicap me in my present work, and still again, perhaps they are beyond the conceptual capacity of my order of being. 2. Cenarington. This sphere is the bosom of the Son, the personal receiving world of the Eternal Son. It is the paradise headquarters of the descending and ascending sons of God when and after they are fully accredited and finally approved. This world is the paradise home for all sons of the Eternal Son and of His coordinate and associate sons. There are numerous orders of divine sonship attached to this supernal abode which have not been revealed to mortals, since they are not concerned with the plans of the ascension scheme of human spiritual progression through the universes and on to paradise. The secrets of Cenarington include the secret of the incarnation of the divine sons. When a son of God becomes a son of man, is literally born of woman, as occurred on your world 1900 years ago, it is a universal mystery. It is occurring right along throughout the universes, and it is a Cenarington secret of divine sonship. The adjusters are a mystery of God the Father. The incarnation of the divine sons is a mystery of God the Son. It is a secret locked up in the 7th sector of Cenarington, a realm penetrated by none save those who have personally passed through this unique experience. Only those phases of incarnation having to do with your ascension career have been brought to your notice. There are many other phases of the mystery of the incarnation of the paradise sons of unrevealed types on missions of universe service which are undisclosed to you, and there are still other Sonarrington mysteries. 3. Spiritington. This world is the bosom of the spirit, the paradise home of the high beings that exclusively represent the infinite spirit. Here foregather the 7 master spirits and certain of their offspring from all universes. At this celestial abode may also be found numerous unrevealed orders of spirit personalities, beings assigned to the manifold activities of the universe not associated with the plans of upstepping the mortal creatures of time to the paradise levels of eternity. The secrets of Spiritington involve the impenetrable mysteries of reflectivity. We tell you of the vast and universal phenomenon of reflectivity, more particularly as it is operative on the headquarters worlds of the 7 superuniverses, but we never fully explain this phenomenon, for we do not fully understand it. Much, very much, we do comprehend, but many basic details are still mysterious to us. Reflectivity is a secret of God the Spirit. You have been instructed concerning reflectivity functions in relation to the ascension scheme of mortal survival, and it does so operate. But reflectivity is also an indispensable feature of the normal working of numerous other phases of universe occupation. This endowment of the infinite spirit is also utilized in channels other than those of intelligence gathering and information dissemination. And there are other secrets of Spiritington. 4. Vicegerington. This planet is the bosom of the Father and the Son, and is the secret sphere of certain unrevealed beings who take origin by the acts of the Father and the Son. This is also the paradise home of many glorified beings of complex ancestry, those whose origin is complicated because of the many diverse techniques operative in the 7 superuniverses. Many groups of beings foregather on this world whose identity has not been revealed to Urantia mortals. The secrets of Vicegerington include the secrets of trinitization, and trinitization constitutes the secret of authority to represent the Trinity, to act as vicegerents of the gods. Authority to represent the Trinity attaches only to those beings, revealed and unrevealed, who are trinitized, created, eventuated, or eternalized by any 2 or all 3 of the Paradise Trinity. Personalities brought into being by the trinitizing acts of certain types of glorified creatures represent no more than the conceptual potential mobilized in that trinitization, albeit such creatures may ascend the path of deity embrace open to all of their kind. Non-trinitized beings do not fully understand the technique of trinitization by either 2 or 3 creators or by certain creatures. You will never fully understand such a phenomenon unless in the far distant future of your glorified career you should essay and succeed in such an adventure, because otherwise these secrets of Vicegerington will always be forbidden you. But to me, a high Trinity origin being, all sectors of Vicegerington are open. I fully understand and just as fully and sacredly protect the secret of my origin and destiny. There are still other forms and phases of trinitization which have not been brought to the notice of the Urantia peoples, and these experiences, in their personal aspects, are duly protected in the secret sector of Vicegerington. 5. Solitarington. This world is the bosom of the Father and the Spirit, and is the rendezvous of a magnificent host of unrevealed beings of origin in the conjoint acts of the Universal Father and the Infinite Spirit, beings who partake of the traits of the Father in addition to their spirit inheritance. This is also the home of the solitary messengers and of other personalities of the superangelic orders. You know of very few of these beings. There are vast numbers of orders unrevealed on Urantia. Because they are domiciled on the 5th world, it does not necessarily follow that the Father had aught to do with the creation of solitary messengers or their superangelic associates. But in this universe age, he does have to do with their function. During the present universe age, this is also the status sphere of the universe power directors. There are numerous additional orders of spirit personalities, beings unknown to mortal man, who look upon Solitarington as their paradise home sphere. It should be remembered that all divisions and levels of universe activities are just as fully provided with spirit ministers as is the realm concerned with helping mortal man ascend to his divine paradise destiny. The secrets of Solitarington. Besides certain secrets of trinitization, this world holds the secrets of the personal relation of the infinite spirit with certain of the higher offspring of the third source and center. On Solitarington are held the mysteries of the intimate association of numerous unrevealed orders with the spirits of the Father, of the Son, and of the Spirit, with the threefold Spirit of the Trinity, and with the spirits of the Supreme, the Ultimate, and the Supreme Ultimate. 6. Seraphington. This sphere is the bosom of the Son and the Spirit, and is the home world of the vast hosts of unrevealed beings created by the Son and the Spirit. This is also the destiny sphere of all ministering orders of the angelic hosts, including Supernaphim, Sekanophim, and Seraphim. There also serve in the central and outlying universes many orders of superb spirits who are not ministering spirits to those who shall be heirs of salvation. All these spirit workers in all levels and realms of universe activities look upon Seraphington as their paradise home. The secrets of Seraphington involve a threefold mystery, only one of which I may mention, the mystery of seraphic transport. The ability of various orders of seraphim and allied spirit beings to envelop within their spirit forms all orders of non-material personalities and to carry them away on lengthy interplanetary journeys is a secret locked up in the sacred sectors of Seraphington. The transport seraphim comprehend this mystery, but they do not communicate it to the rest of us. Or perhaps they cannot. The other mysteries of Seraphington pertain to the personal experiences of types of spirit servers as yet not revealed to mortals, and we refrain from discussing the secrets of such closely related beings because you can almost comprehend such near orders of existence, and it would be akin to betrayal of trust to present even our partial knowledge of such phenomena. 7. Ascendington. This unique world is the bosom of the Father, Son, and Spirit, the rendezvous of the ascendant creatures of space, the receiving sphere of the pilgrims of time who are passing through the Havona universe on their way to paradise. Ascendington is the actual paradise home of the ascendant souls of time and space until they attain paradise status. You mortals will spend most of your Havona vacations on Ascendington. During your Havona life, Ascendington will be to you what the reversion directors were during the local and super-universe ascension. Here you will engage in thousands of activities which are beyond the grasp of mortal imagination. And as on every previous advance in the Godward ascent, your human self will here enter into new relationships with your divine self. The secrets of Ascendington include the mystery of the gradual and certain building up in the material and mortal mind of a spiritual and potentially immortal counterpart of character and identity. This phenomenon constitutes one of the most perplexing mysteries of the universes, the evolution of an immortal soul within the mind of a mortal and material creature. You will never fully understand this mysterious transaction until you reach Ascendington, and that is just why all Ascendington will be open to your wondering gaze. 1/7 of Ascendington is forbidden to me, that sector concerned with this very secret which is or will be the exclusive experience and possession of your type of being. This experience belongs to your human order of existence. My order of personality is not directly concerned with such transactions. It is therefore forbidden to me and eventually revealed to you. But even after it is revealed to you, for some reason it forever remains your secret. You do not reveal it to us nor to any other order of beings. We know about the eternal fusion of a divine adjuster and an immortal soul of human origin. But the ascendant finaliters know this very experience as an absolute reality. 2. Father-world relationships. These home worlds of the diverse orders of spiritual beings are tremendous and stupendous spheres, and they are equal to paradise in their matchless beauty and superb glory. They are rendezvous worlds, reunion spheres, serving as permanent cosmic addresses. As finaliters, you will be domiciled on paradise, but Ascendington will be your home address at all times, even when you enter service in outer space. Through all eternity, you will regard Ascendington as your home of sentimental memories and reminiscent recollections. When you become seventh-stage spirit beings, possibly you will give up your residential status on paradise. If outer universes are in the making, if they are to be inhabited by time creatures of ascension potential, then we infer that these children of the future will also be destined to look upon Ascendington as their paradise home world. Ascendington is the only sacred sphere that will be unreservedly open to your inspection as a paradise arrival. Vicegerrington is the only sacred sphere that is wholly and unreservedly open to my scrutiny. Though its secrets are concerned in my origin, in this universe age, I do not regard Vicegerrington as my home. Trinity origin beings and trinitized beings are not the same. The Trinity origin beings do not fully share the Father's worlds. They have their soul homes on the Isle of Paradise in close proximity to the most holy sphere. They often appear on Ascendington, the bosom of the Father-Son Spirit, where they fraternize with their brethren who have come up from the lowly worlds of space. You might assume that Creator sons, being of Father-Son origin, would regard Vicegerrington as their home, but such is not the case in this universe age of the function of God the Sevenfold. And there are many similar problems that will perplex you, for you are sure to encounter many difficulties as you attempt to understand these things which are so near paradise. Nor can you successfully reason out these questions. You know so little. And if you knew more about the Father's worlds, you would simply encounter more difficulties until you knew all about them. Status on any of these secret worlds is acquired by service as well as by nature of origin, and the successive universe ages may and do redistribute certain of these personality groupings. The worlds of the inner circuit are really fraternal or status worlds more than actual residential spheres. Mortals will attain some status on each of the Father's worlds save one. For example, when you mortals attain Havona, you are granted clearance for Ascendington, where you are most welcome, but you are not permitted to visit the other 6 sacred worlds. Subsequent to your passage through the paradise regime, and after your admission to the core of the finality, you are granted clearance for Sonarington, since you are sons of God as well as ascenders, and you are even more. But there will always remain 1/7 of Sonarington, the sector of the incarnation secrets of the divine sons, which will not be open to your scrutiny. Never will those secrets be revealed to the ascendant sons of God. Eventually, you will have full access to Ascendington and relative access to the other spheres of the Father except Divinington. But even when you are granted permission to land on 5 additional secret spheres after you have become a finaliter, you will not be allowed to visit all sectors of such worlds. Nor will you be permitted to land on the shores of Divinington, the bosom of the Father, though you shall surely stand repeatedly at the right hand of the Father. Never throughout all eternity will there arise any necessity for your presence on the world of the thought adjusters. These rendezvous worlds of spirit life are forbidden ground to the extent that we are asked not to negotiate entrance to those phases of these spheres which are wholly outside our realms of experience. You may become creature perfect even as the Universal Father is deity perfect, but you may not know all the experiential secrets of all other orders of universe personalities. When the Creator has an experiential personality secret with his creature, the Creator preserves that secret in eternal confidence. All these secrets are supposedly known to the collective body of the Trinitized secrets of supremacy. These beings are fully known only by their special world groups. They are little comprehended by other orders. After you attain paradise, you will know and ardently love the 10 secrets of supremacy who direct Ascendington. Accepting Divinington, you will also achieve a partial understanding of the secrets of supremacy on the other worlds of the Father, though not so perfectly as on Ascendington. The Trinitized secrets of supremacy, as their name might suggest, are related to the Supreme. They are likewise related to the Ultimate and to the future Supreme Ultimate. These secrets of supremacy are the secrets of the Supreme and also the secrets of the Ultimate, even the secrets of the Supreme Ultimate. 3. The sacred worlds of the Eternal Sun. The 7 luminous spheres of the Eternal Sun are the worlds of the 7 phases of pure spirit existence. These shining orbs are the source of the threefold light of Paradise and Havona, their influence being largely, but not wholly, confined to the central universe. Personality is not present on these Paradise satellites. Therefore is there little concerning these pure spirit abodes which can be presented to the mortal and material personality. We are taught that these worlds teem with the otherwise than personal life of the beings of the Eternal Sun. We infer that these entities are being assembled for ministry in the projected new universes of outer space. The Paradise philosophers maintain that each Paradise cycle, about 2 billion years of Urantia time, witnesses the creation of additional reserves of these orders on the secret worlds of the Eternal Sun. As far as I am informed, no personality has ever been on any one of these spheres of the Eternal Sun. I have never been assigned to visit one of these worlds in all my long experience in and out of Paradise. Even the personalities co-created by the Eternal Sun do not go to these worlds. We infer that all types of impersonal spirits, regardless of parentage, are admitted to these spirit homes. As I am a person and have a spirit form, no doubt such a world would seem empty and deserted, even if I were permitted to pay it a visit. High spirit personalities are not given to the gratification of purposeless curiosity, purely useless adventure. There is at all times altogether too much intriguing and purposeful adventure to permit the development of any great interest in those projects which are either futile or unreal. 4. The worlds of the infinite spirit. Between the inner circuit of Havona and the shining spheres of the Eternal Sun, there circle the 7 orbs of the infinite spirit, worlds inhabited by the offspring of the infinite spirit, by the trinitized sons of glorified, created personalities, and by other types of unrevealed beings concerned with the effective administration of the many enterprises of the various realms of universe activities. The 7 master spirits are the supreme and ultimate representatives of the infinite spirit. They maintain their personal stations, their power focuses, on the periphery of Paradise, but all operations concerned with their management and direction of the grand universe are conducted on and from these 7 special executive spheres of the infinite spirit. The 7 master spirits are, in reality, the mind-spirit balance wheel of the universe of universes, an all-embracing, all-encompassing, and all-coordinating power of central location. From these 7 special spheres, the master spirits operate to equalize and stabilize the cosmic mind circuits of the grand universe. They also have to do with the differential spiritual attitude and presence of the deities throughout the grand universe. Physical reactions are uniform, unvarying, and always instantaneous and automatic. But experiential spiritual presence is in accordance with the underlying conditions or states of spiritual receptivity inherent in the individual minds of the realms. Physical authority, presence, and function are unvarying in all the universes, small or great. The differing factor in spiritual presence or reaction is the fluctuating differential in its recognition and reception by will creatures. Whereas the spiritual presence of absolute and existential deity is in no manner whatever influenced by attitudes of loyalty or disloyalty on the part of created beings, at the same time, it is true that the functioning presence of sub-absolute and experiential deity is definitely and directly influenced by the decisions, choices, and will attitudes of such finite creature beings, by the loyalty and devotion of the individual being, planet, system, constellation, or universe. But this spiritual presence of divinity is not whimsical nor arbitrary. Its experiential variance is inherent in the free will endowment of personal creatures. The determiner of the differential of spiritual presence exists in your own hearts and minds, and consists in the manner of your own choosing, in the decisions of your minds, and in the determination of your own wills. This differential is inherent in the free will reactions of intelligent personal beings, beings whom the Universal Father has ordained shall exercise this liberty of choosing. And the deities are ever true to the ebb and flow of their spirits in meeting and satisfying the conditions and demands of this differential of creature choice, now bestowing more of their presence in response to a sincere desire for the same, and again withdrawing themselves from the scene as their creatures decide adversely in the exercise of their divinely bestowed freedom of choice. And thus does the Spirit of Divinity become humbly obedient to the choosing of the creatures of the realms. The executive abodes of the 7 master spirits are, in reality, the paradise headquarters of the 7 superuniverses and their correlated segments in outer space. Each master spirit presides over one superuniverse, and each of these 7 worlds is exclusively assigned to one of the master spirits. There is literally no phase of the sub-paradise administration of the 7 superuniverses which is not provided for on these executive worlds. They are not so exclusive as the spheres of the Father or those of the Son, and though residential status is limited to native beings and those who work thereon, these 7 administrative planets are always open to all beings who desire to visit them and who can command the necessary means of transit. To me, these executive worlds are the most interesting and intriguing spots outside of paradise. In no other place in the wide universe can one observe such varied activities involving so many different orders of living beings, having to do with operations on so many diverse levels, occupations at once material, intellectual, and spiritual. When I am accorded a period of release from assignment, if I chance to be on Paradise or in Havona, I usually proceed to one of these busy worlds of the 7 master spirits, there to inspire my mind with such spectacles of enterprise, devotion, loyalty, wisdom, and effectiveness. Nowhere else can I observe such an amazing interassociation of personality performances on all 7 levels of universe reality, and I am always stimulated by the activities of those who well know how to do their work and who so thoroughly enjoy doing it.
Presented by a perfecter of wisdom commissioned thus to function by the Ancients of Days on Uversa.